Mr. Nwagu, the elections in the country, the polls opened almost simultaneously across the country. But at this moment, results are trickling in from various states. Now, there are some states that had issues. There are others that didn't have issues. But even for those states that didn't have issues, we don't have results coming in from there yet. So what we would like to know is the drama, or should I say, the process of transiting, that's the transition from the states to the National Collation Center, and what are the inadequacies in this system, that results not arriving at the Collation Center in time from the states?
Straight away, I think we deliberately criminalize technology in our country. And why I say that is that the laborious nature of doing these things manually puts us in very difficult. And then you have also issues around trust. Trust issues are also because you have to follow this process. You have to ensure that the party agents are there. You have to ensure that they agree. They first will drag at the local government collation areas. After that dragging, they come to the state and continue that engagement that is most times, just stalling the process, So the level of contestation that you see is an impediment to speed in terms of how so is a big challenge. I keep saying it. If you observe elections outside the country, even within, our region here, the West African region, in Ghana, poll officials take, their materials to their homes. They take their materials to their homes. The trust threshold is a bit higher. You don't see the kind of interest, deep interest that you see, in our electoral process, and the way we manage it in such a way that it does not even allow for people to even be discretionary in resolving a matter. Every issue has to be contested. Every matter has to be resolved to the satisfaction of everybody before it can move to the next stage. Where by the time you even watch what you're presenting to us from the Collation Center, you see interventions that if you interrogate those interventions, it has no direct connection to the issues that are being raised in those places. People just will want to see how they represent themselves in a manner that shows that they are doing some work. So for me, is to say we need to perhaps begin to talk about trust, the trust issues, remove the elements that also confuse the process. What are we doing with technology? What are we doing with electronic transmission of results? We are not seeing that in 2019. Who knows if the conversations for 2023 will widen the spectra of elections in such a way that we can introduce full blast technology, we can go electronic, and then save the time and the manpower that is used up. By the time you are closing collation by after 12 today, and you resume by 10 tomorrow, and you sit through for only almost 12 hours, the quality of even the service that you provide will be challenged. So my sense is that we need to deal with first how we infuse technology, and then how we also follow the world in digitalizing our processes and reduce the paper loads, the heavy paper loads that are involved in our electoral process.
Well, in talking about digitization, we've been having an ongoing conversation about that. But you're an observer, and I want to get that sense from you. If really it's that difficult to, apart from the legal or constitutional angle to it, in terms of operation, how easy would it be for us to begin to upscale the involvement of science and ICT into this process?
If you introduce technology, you remove discretion. Discretion is reduced, and when discretion is reduced, corruption is also a bit far away. So the resistance many times has to do with procurement. Procurement in the sense that you have to print these things, and contractors will want to print something. If contractors print, money is involved. Election is a huge commercial enterprise. So the officials within the electoral management body themselves will be resistant to removing some of those processes that helps for procurement. That's important and is real. So the thing also is to begin to look at internal governance mechanisms within the electoral management body that helps to take away the interest in procurement, in ink, in ballot printing, in, you know, all of those things. So when you look at all of those issues, you would understand why it is difficult in our country to take away those things that put money in people's hands, that may not necessarily happen if you digitalize and if you introduce technology.
We had talked about the role of political parties in voters' education and awareness, and then also that it is always convenient for us to excuse away some of the challenges that we are confronted with in our election. We highlight these challenges not because we want to turn INEC to the whipping board, but because they are recurrent challenges. You know, they are recurrent because we excuse them away. We always believe, oh, in spite of these challenges, logistic challenges, INEC knows that every 4 years they would conduct a national election. One thing about political parties in Nigeria is that they don't like election. And then you conduct election, run up to the election, you say, oh, there's synergy between INEC and the security agencies. You know the flash points. You know where troubles it's likely to happen because it is what you do. And then trouble now happens, you say, oh, yes, we can, excuse the... In an election where 30 people died, in some countries, they will declare national mourning. And so we shouldn't just say because, it was relatively peaceful in some other areas, and so because of that, we should, just excuse that away and say, well, these challenges were isolated. Because if this was a first election, maybe after, a long period or a period of interregnum or intervention in our government, we would say, yes, this is novel to us after a long break, and so some of these challenges should be excused. But with each election, challenges we faced, keep increasing. And so we can't excuse them away and say, oh, yes, we should call more on the political parties and leave INEC out of it, and because INEC, the beneficiaries are the political parties. Because, like I said, INEC understands that our political parties also do not want election. And then secondly, I didn't say that the fringe parties or the smaller parties should be legislated away. No. I said that I had expected that the smaller political parties should have come together to synergize. Sort of coalition. Exactly, synergize, so you'll be able to give, a run, the bigger political parties a run for their money. Because if you look at all the figures, all the numbers for the smaller political parties put together, it didn't, didn't even measure up to, half of the numbers of these big political parties. So why duplicate effort when at the end of the day, consistently after, going around, states of the federation, at the end of the day, you get, 30 votes in a state, total number of votes in the entire federation, not up to 1 million. So all of this, if efforts are put together by all of these political parties, and then people probably will see them as, more serious and then more on ground, because also, whether we like it or not, in as much as we want something new, it is people that makes up structures at the local level. And it is those structures that will in turn, transcend to vote, just the same way we are talking about, functions of political parties now, and the voters' education and awareness. And then lastly, on you also hear, like I talked about the attitude of our political parties. We also saw the preliminary report by the electoral observers. They were more particular about the debt, because if you record more debt, who at the end of the day, who will end up voting? Why would people ordinarily want to come out when they know that elections are going to be violent? In some cases, you see people traveling out of Nigeria because we're conducting election. And all of us also agree that we want to see a day where we would not have to shut down the entire country, because we're conducting election. So what are we doing in this regard to ensure that gradually we are navigating towards all of this? And it is only when we point out the challenges that we are facing in the election that we'll be able to surmount them.